happening here. You can. This is day 2 for those just joining us. It's the 7th Lagos Economic Summit. Well, actually, today started off by all the fantastic talks. Of course, you saw former judge and president, Mr. Saakashvili, who has actually come to tell people what exactly he did concerning the power situation in Georgia while he was president. Recall, he was here yesterday at a plenary where he talked about corruption, the fight against corruption, which is actually making the news around the world, even in the country. And come to think of it, we have actually started off our Sunrise Daily this morning, also looking at the power situation in the country. This is no small means any move by a nation to solving the power situation. And of course, today they've been looking at managing the transition issues from public to private sector controlled power industry. And of course, we saw Funke Oshivodu there, who is the CEO of Benin Distribution Company, also speaking to us on that particular matter. Well, again, that's not to say that the power went out there, but somehow we're back again. But we'll also be looking at the transportation issue here, which is also linked to the power situation in the country. You know, I also recall once where the judge and former judge and president also drove himself to the airport in an electric car. I know a lot of Nigerians will be saying, well, we're not talking about electric car now, we're talking about putting electricity in our homes and in our places of work. But shortly I'll be speaking with the Commissioner for Transportation in Lagos State to tell us more on what they're doing in the transportation sector to see how that can actually be powered, because the essence of this whole economic summit is about powering the Lagos economy. And you also recall that, the Lagos transportation, rather water transportation, is another issue that the government of the day has actually been trying to see how they can harness, irrespective of what shortcomings they have experienced lately in terms of safety. And they say they have been putting everything in place to get that awareness. Mr. Okwefa, good morning and welcome. I think it's quite an interesting moment we're having here at the summit. Well, we're having a recess now, but transportation, as I did say, is one key area your government has actually been focusing on and seeing how they can drive this to a fantastic and enviable height. Perhaps you tell us more what you're doing in that.
You see, the transportation really is the artery of every economic development. If you generate power, if the manufacturing sector does fine and they produce the goods, where does the good go? So everything boils down to logistics, supply chain management, and then mobility. That's what makes transportation very key. And for us in Lagos State, we have seen transportation as one sector that, if properly positioned and all the possibilities are harnessed, we can definitely move not just Lagos State, we can move this country to the actual position we should be. In the area of development per se, coming from 2007 today, the 2008 summit today, we've had so many resolutions, and basically we've implemented almost all except one. That is the one on congestion and charging. And our focus in the transportation is basically to provide an efficient, a safe, efficient, reliable, integrated multimodal system. And what do I mean by this? Is to take advantage of the roadway and take full advantage. We started with the bus rapid transit system. We are now into the bus franchising system, and we are now moving on to get the yellow buses better organized. Now we've also moved into the integration system, where we've gone to the e-ticketing system, trying to make sure people have ease of using one ticket platform. Now we are moving to the next level of intelligent transportation system, getting a traffic signal light to collect information, and getting some other, you will see them, some other information collecting devices on the road. I think
that is where Lagosians and Nigerians will be very, very much interested in when you talk about electricity, and now you're talking about getting information as you drive on the road. You know how it is done sometimes in other parts of the world. Sometimes you get to see where there's traffic gridlock or an accident has happened.
The variable messaging system.
Yes, beautiful.
And it tells
you. Is that what you're working on now?
Now, to do all this, if you don't have electricity, you can't move on. I tell you this story. We have 107 traffic signal light. We are powering like 68 of them with solar power sources. Those that will power with electricity, we have problems. When the bank or the eateries is not doesn't have the generator on, maybe at night, then the thing doesn't work. When the thing doesn't work, it creates confusion. So if electricity is key, if electricity is regular, you can be rest assured that your urban traffic system will be powered on, then you can go to sleep. Beyond that, the ticketing system too requires a back-end electricity powered system. Now, the more critical one is this, the vehicles. We don't manufacture vehicles in that quantity. For now, we manufacture at Badagry. Volks, that's the old Volkswagen yard. They make Ashok Leyland buses. I think maybe about 100 to 200, but they have a capacity for over 1,000 per annum. So if you don't manufacture buses at the rate you need it, how do you reflect? So the main reason, if you ask many of these factories and industries, to tell you that electricity is a problem because they spend so much money on power. So we need power in the transport sector, not because we want to use electric car, which is also another option, but because all the things we need to do our intelligent transport system, all that we need to keep the transport system efficient is powered by electricity.
Well, Mr. Kwefas, thank you so very much for speaking with us. I think this summit is geared towards making sure that all of these fantastic plan and vision is a reality at the end of the day. Well, nice speaking with us. Well, you've heard all of that. Really, we can't but wait to see how Lagos is powered. We can't but wait to see how our economy is really powered and driven. And, well, this is the essence of this talk. Well, it will culminate by tomorrow. But, of course, I have Ademori Kuye, is the Commissioner for Local Government here in Lagos State. He, too, will be speaking with us on this particular summit. Well, when we talk about grassroots development, grassroots governance, that is your area.
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe we should start talking and saying how this affects administration and development at the grassroots level.
Well, it's important for you to know. While we were taking the statistics yesterday, we discovered that power is actually needed at the homes most. This is why it's necessary for there to be transparency in service delivery, as some of the speakers have said. And I think the investors now in the power sector should take clue from what Lagos State have done. There is need for efficient and effective power auditing, so that we really know the needs of the people, and there should be value for money. People should not be shortchanged, all right? What you pay for, it should be what you get.
No, I think, earlier on this morning we had a talk with the NERC, Mr. Ayo. He was here and he spoke on that, which people would want to call estimated billing and fixed charges. What's the government doing in that regard?
Well, like I suggested, I think the government should be very transparent in service delivery, in what they're giving to the people. People should have, like I said before, people should have value for their money. These estimated bills and all of that should stop. Because you go to the local areas, and you find out that there is no power there. At the end of the month, they give them bills. This is not fair. And when they bring the power, there is a power surge that sets houses on fire. And we have witnessed such incidents so many times in Lagos. And there is apparently nobody to sue.
Well, I think, Mr. Kuye, I'm hoping that all of this will be a thing of the past. Now that we have actually, noticed and highlighted some of the problems. Well, thank you very much for speaking with us. We're still here. We're trying to see how all of this can actually be sorted out. And of course, the most interesting thing here is that Lagos State has an electricity board. And, being headed by a woman, and the general manager is the next person I'll be speaking with. Perhaps she should tell us more on this. Mrs. Ogumbi, quite an electrifying speech you had yesterday, or a session you had yesterday. But a lot of people will be wondering what this board is about, what they have actually set out to achieve, knowing full well that people are also complaining, especially consumers. What is the Lagos Electricity Board about?
Okay, so the Lagos State Electricity Board is really the implementing agency for energy development in Lagos State. So we focus on three main things, which is public lighting, independent power projects, and energy development. So if I break it down a bit further,
Oh, no, go ahead. Yeah.
public lighting is really street lighting. So we've managed to light up about 300 kilometers of street lighting in the last 2 years, which is a far cry from when the governor first came in 2008 with no street lights. We also do independent power projects. We have 3 working right now, but I have to stress the independent power projects are for public service and public delivery. So we have one in Akute that's in charge of our water supply to Lagosians. About 80% of the water supply is powered by that plant. So you can imagine we were able to increase the capacity maybe about 10 and 20 times by getting stable water supply. Then we have one on the island which has 4 of the largest hospitals connected to it, 14 schools and numerous other government buildings.
Well, now these are for the public infrastructures.
Yes.
Perhaps that explains why sometimes you drive around Lagos, it's all beautiful because of the lighting.
Yes.
But what about the consumer? Well, he's
Well,
too,
you see, the consumer is
needs-
also very important, but we have to understand that there's legal implications of what we have in mind. We would love a Lagos State government to have IPPs to power all the residents, but that is actually a constitutional issue, and that lies with the old PHCN, which is now ruled with the new DISCO. So when I say we do energy development, it's also one of our tasks that Eco DISCO and Ikeja DISCO, we create the right enabling environment to make sure they can bring more power into Lagos. And so that is really our focus, to kind of get more power into Lagos by any means.
You have any challenges actually delivering?
Of course, we have many challenges. You might have heard from the conference there are challenges of gas that come into the discos. We have a drop of how much power nationally is coming in. So Lagos State government, ideally, they were meant to give us about 1,000 megawatts, but it's dropped down significantly. Some days you don't even get 500 megawatts. So we also need to understand the challenges the distribution companies are having. But what we have to enforce is that the gas problem is sorted out and there's just more energy coming into Lagos. And ways to try and counter it is the issue of embedded generation. We prefer for the plants to be generated and work in Lagos, so you're not relying on transmission and all these other issues to slow you down. So that's one of the particular things we're doing.
So are you hopeful?
I'm very hopeful. I'm
Well,
very
thank you.
optimistic, but it's not something that's going to happen overnight, but we will work for it to happen in Lagos.
Well, anyway, thank you so very much for speaking with us. That's the General Manager, Lagos State Electricity Board, Mrs. Ogumbi. But we know that the state government, as well as a lot of people concerned in this drive, will be interested in having what they call partnership. And one of those is what we have we understand, with the World Bank. And pretty soon we should also be speaking with Mr. Eric Fenstorm, he's also of the World Bank. Perhaps he should be telling us the role of the World Bank in helping us achieve all of this power, electricity in Lagos and in the country.
Sure. I think the World Bank has been a long-standing partner to the Nigerian government is trying to drive this reform ever since the law and the policy was put forward some years back. And we're very pleased with the progress so far. But obviously, and as we've seen during the summit, there's a lot that remains to be done. We're in a pretty critical and I think difficult transition period as the private operators are just getting to grips with the realities on the ground. And the World Bank can play some role in this, but I think that this is a market now that has many players, right? It used to be just the government and maybe a few utilities and donors, but we now have something like 15 different companies operating. But the bank, coming back to your questions, is trying to drive investment through the provision of guarantees. We're coming in with the first guarantees for some of the what we call greenfield new power plants in the next couple of months. And we hope to expand from there in terms of supporting the operators of the PHCN assets to help some of them mobilize financing and making sure that the turnaround program that they have all put forth in their bids can actually become reality, which will benefit all of us.
Well, anyway, thank you so very much for speaking with us here, and we hope that, at the end of it all, we'll be able to see the kind of assistance you're giving to the new investors in the power sector.
We all hope so, and thank you for having me on. Thank you.
All right, okay. I think, well, we heard from the CEO of the Benin Disco, Funke Oshibadu. She also spoke on the transition from public to private, well, in this whole mix, solving the power situation. And I'll be speaking with her. Perhaps let us draw from her insight, from her experiences, especially as we, well, as she has had in Benin. So, well, good to have you here in Lagos talking about electricity and how well we can actually move ourselves out of the darkness we're experiencing presently. So how is it working for you?
It's been interesting. We are present in 4 states, Edo, Delta, Ondo, and Ekiti. I think, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of communication that needs to be done openly in terms of the reality of the environment.
Tell
and
us
the
more on
changes.
that communication.
Okay. Basically, it's, I think for all of us, we expect that the moment there is a privatization, it's like the next day, all my problem on power is solved. And so there's that pent-up expectation, which most people will tell you is not being realized. And it's not being realized because the reality is that the power process is a journey. The power that is available in the country, which is at best 4,000 megawatts, is nowhere near to what will give us 100% or 24 hours power.
So how long is this journey?
This journey will be long or short, depending on all of us working together. If we want 100% power, by the rule of thumb, we will have to have more than 100,000 megawatts. And to generate power is a major investment. And to make those major investments, there must be guarantees in terms of appropriate pricing, guarantees in terms of the environment and the stakeholders working together. So there are many things that we all have to sit down together and openly discuss. But I think there are improvements that are already taking place. As you already know, when you are in public sector, because of lack of investments, adequate investments, there's a lot of what I call infrastructure, even basic infrastructure that do not exist, that you first have to put in place. So a lot of that means that things will not change overnight. For all the investors, we all gained access, physical access, for the first time into each of our entities on 1st of November. 9 months after we should have gained access.
November last year,
Yes,
last year?
that was the first time everybody were able to enter the building or any asset, first time. And this is 9 months after we were supposed to have entered. So 6 months in understanding that environment and also in bringing out the various things. Communication becomes a major critical factor in that aspect.
Now let's talk about financing now very quickly. How easy is it for you to access funds to get your gas and to actually get some of this infrastructure in place?
For all of us, we don't have problem of financing. But the money from both the bankers and even from private resources will not flow if the structure that is on ground, we are still operating what is interim rule. And interim rule is because the environment is such that more than 40 to 60% of the power is being leaked away in different ways. So the money flowing in is not adequate to pay for the power. So various things have to be done to reduce those leakages and also to basically put certain things in place before the full process can start. And so there's been a working with the regulators to try and ensure that.
What's the progress like?
It hasn't been bad, but maybe one aspect that would be very interesting to highlight, which is something that we all did not realize how prevalent it is that even we as consumers and customers, because we do not have adequate power, have devised methodologies of getting that power without paying for it. So you have lots of houses that are consuming and they are not on the They are not on the customer base of the electricity company.
Well, I think we just hope that, you just make out time, have a structure so that everyone can actually be accountable and accounted for when it comes to distribution to these homes and
Yes.
business facilities. Well, Mrs. Oshibodu would like to thank you so very much for being with us. She's the CEO of Bini Disco, and we've been talking about how we can unlock the power to unlock opportunities at the 7th Lagos Economic Summit, otherwise called Betty 2014. We'll be back shortly to continue proceedings here